Intimidation, whether it's a glaring look, an imposing presence, or even subtle manipulations, has a way of shaking our confidence, making us feel smaller, weaker, or less capable than we truly are. It's a tool wielded by individuals who thrive on control, often to mask their own insecurities, but intimidation is only as powerful as the response it elicits. If we don't allow it to take root in our minds, its effect diminishes to nothing. This is where the timeless wisdom of Stoicism steps in. The Stoics, ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, recognized the challenges of intimidation long before our modern age. They lived in a world where power dynamics were as present as they are today, where emperors, soldiers, and citizens alike faced situations designed to test their resolve. Their teachings are not just philosophical musings, they're practical tools for navigating the complexities of human interaction, including intimidation. Now, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. Only 15% of my audience is currently subscribed, so if these insights resonate with you, I'd love for you to join our community and turn on the notification bell to stay updated. To understand why Stoicism is such a powerful antidote, we must first dissect what intimidation truly is. At its core, intimidation is an attempt to create imbalance. It seeks to provoke fear, self-doubt, or submission by asserting dominance, whether overtly or subtly. This dominance can take many forms: a harsh critique from a superior, a competitor's boastful arrogance, or even a simple but pointed silence designed to unsettle. But why do people intimidate? Often, it stems from their own insecurities. Someone who feels the need to project power is often compensating for a lack of confidence elsewhere. They create an aura of dominance because they fear vulnerability. Recognizing this truth is the first step in disarming intimidation. It's not about you, it's about them. Now, let's dive into the first Stoic principle that equips us to handle intimidation: separating what you can control from what you cannot. Epictetus famously said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." This means that the feeling of being intimidated doesn't come from the person or the situation. It comes from how we interpret it. Imagine you're in a job interview, and the interviewer seems cold and dismissive. Their tone is curt, their questions pointed. It's easy to internalize their demeanor, to think, "They don't respect me, I must be failing." But a Stoic approach reframes this. You cannot control their behavior, but you can control your perception of it. Their coldness may have nothing to do with you. It could stem from their own stress, bias, or even a deliberate tactic. By focusing on what is within your power, your preparation, your composure, your responses, you remove their power to intimidate. One powerful Stoic exercise to develop this mindset is the dichotomy of control. Take any situation where you feel intimidated and list what you can control versus what you cannot. In the interview example, you can control your preparation, your posture, your tone, and your answers. You cannot control their mood, their judgments, or the outcome of the interview. By focusing solely on your sphere of influence, you free yourself from the burden of trying to manage what's beyond your reach. Another key Stoic principle is seeing intimidation for what it truly is, a perspective, not a reality. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who faced constant political intrigue and potential betrayal, wrote, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now." This is a profound reminder that intimidation only has as much power as we grant it. The glare of an aggressive competitor, the harsh tone of a critic, or even the towering presence of an authority figure is just that, a presence. It is our interpretation, our judgment, that transforms it into something threatening. To illustrate, consider the case of a public speaker addressing a critical audience. As the speaker takes the stage, they notice crossed arms, furrowed brows, and a general air of skepticism. A non-Stoic response might be panic. They don't like me, I'll fail. But a Stoic response reframes the situation. Their expressions are neutral until proven otherwise. I will focus on delivering my message. By refusing to assign a negative interpretation, the speaker robs the audience's demeanor of its intimidating power. Stoicism also equips us with a powerful tool for grounding ourselves in the face of intimidation. Visualizing the worst-case scenario. This might sound counterintuitive. Why would we want to imagine failure or conflict? But the Stoics believed that by confronting our fears head-on, we strip them of their ability to paralyze us. Seneca advised, rehearse worst-case scenarios, and you will find that they are often less terrible than imagined. For example, let's say you're preparing to negotiate a raise with a notoriously stern manager. The thought of their possible rejection or criticism looms large. Instead of avoiding the fear, Stoicism encourages you to face it. What's the worst that could happen? Perhaps they say no. Perhaps they criticize your performance. By visualizing these outcomes, you prepare yourself emotionally, realizing that none of them are insurmountable. This exercise transforms fear into clarity, allowing you to approach the negotiation with calm confidence. Another way to neutralize intimidation is by embracing silence and stillness, both externally and internally. Intimidation thrives on reaction. It seeks to provoke a response, whether it's defensiveness, fear, or aggression. But what happens when you don't react? When you maintain your composure, refusing to be pulled into the emotional chaos? Silence, in this context, is not passive, it's powerful. It signals self-control, resilience, and a refusal to engage on the intimidator's terms. Imagine a scenario where a colleague criticizes your work in a team meeting, their tone sharp and their words cutting. The instinctive response might be to defend yourself, to argue or explain, but a Stoic response might be to pause, take a breath, and respond with measured calmness, or even to say nothing at all, letting the criticism hang in the air without validation. This controlled silence can shift the dynamic, forcing the critic to reconsider their approach. The practice of silence ties closely to another Stoic exercise, practicing detachment. Detachment doesn't mean indifference, it means separating your sense of self-worth from external events. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When someone tries to intimidate you, their behavior is a reflection of their character, not yours. By detaching from their actions, you preserve your inner peace. Finally, Stoicism reminds us that intimidation is an opportunity for growth. It is not a pleasant experience, but it is a powerful teacher. Each encounter with intimidation challenges us to strengthen our resolve, to refine our perceptions, and to practice resilience. Instead of dreading these moments, Stoicism encourages us to embrace them as part of the human experience. As Epictetus said, difficulties show a man to himself. To truly master the art of dealing with intimidation, one must first learn to recognize its signs and understand the psychology behind it. Intimidation comes in many forms. Sometimes it's blatant, like a raised voice or a physical threat. Other times it's subtle, woven into a dismissive tone, a strategic pause, or an overconfident smirk. The Stoics teach us that by identifying these tactics, we can rob them of their power. Why do people intimidate others? The answer often lies in fear, fear of losing control, fear of being exposed, or fear of inadequacy. The very act of trying to intimidate someone is frequently a projection of insecurity. The aggressor, feeling vulnerable or threatened, attempts to shift the balance of power in their favor. When you understand this, intimidation becomes less daunting and more pitiable. You realize that the person trying to dominate you may not be as powerful as they seem. Take, for example, a boss who berates their team in meetings, using harsh words and loud outbursts to maintain authority. On the surface, they appear commanding, but beneath that facade, their behavior may stem from insecurity about their leadership or a fear of being challenged. By recognizing this, you can approach the situation with a Stoic mindset, understanding that their actions are a reflection of their internal turmoil, not of your worth. How do you notice intimidation? It's not always as obvious as a raised voice. Sometimes it manifests as an interruption during your speech, a pointed glance, or a deliberate exclusion. These subtle cues can be just as powerful as overt aggression, and noticing them requires mindfulness, a core tenet of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." To cultivate this mindfulness, start by observing not just what people say, but how they say it. Pay attention to their tone, body language, and timing. Are they leaning in aggressively? Are they interrupting at key moments to undermine your confidence? Are their words laced with sarcasm or veiled threats? These are all tactics of intimidation, and recognizing them is the first step to neutralizing their impact. Imagine a scenario in a professional setting. You're presenting a new idea, and a colleague interrupts with a dismissive comment, their tone dripping with condescension. The instinctive reaction might be frustration or self-doubt, but a Stoic approach reframes this moment. Their interruption is not about the validity of your idea, but about their own need to assert dominance. By staying calm and focused, you demonstrate resilience, a quality far more powerful than any words they could use against you. One way to practice this is through the Stoic exercise of premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils. Before entering a potentially intimidating situation, take a few moments to imagine the worst behaviors you might encounter. Visualize someone interrupting you, criticizing you, or trying to belittle you. Then, visualize yourself responding with calmness and confidence. This mental rehearsal prepares you for the real thing, reducing the likelihood that you'll be caught off guard. Responding to intimidation with composure is perhaps the most powerful tool in your arsenal. When someone tries to unsettle you, their goal is to provoke a reaction, be it fear, anger, or submission. By refusing to give them that reaction, you undermine their efforts entirely. Seneca wrote, "If you wish to be loved, love." This wisdom can be adapted to intimidation. If you wish to be unshaken, remain unshaken. Consider the example of a competitive athlete facing a trash-talking opponent. The opponent's words are designed to distract and unsettle, to make them lose focus. A Stoic athlete, however, recognizes the tactic for what it is. They acknowledge the words but refuse to internalize them, focusing instead on their own performance. The result? The intimidator's strategy falls flat, and the Stoic's composure becomes their greatest strength. Another critical Stoic principle in dealing with intimidation is amor fati, or love of fate. This concept encourages us to embrace everything that happens, including challenges and adversities, as necessary parts of our journey. Intimidation, seen through this lens, is not an obstacle, but an opportunity, a chance to practice resilience, courage, and self-mastery. Imagine being confronted by a domineering individual at a social gathering. They use their loud voice and commanding presence to dominate the conversation, making it clear they see themselves as the alpha. Instead of shrinking away, A Stoic would view this as a moment to test their own strength. By calmly asserting your perspective, without rising to their level of aggression, you demonstrate true confidence. You turn their attempt at intimidation into a personal victory. Another practical application of Stoicism in these situations is detachment from outcomes. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This means that your worth does not depend on how others perceive you or the immediate outcome of an intimidating encounter. Your worth lies in your character, your values, and your actions. Let's apply this to a scenario where a peer tries to one-up you in a meeting, constantly interjecting with their own accomplishments. The temptation might be to compete, to prove that you're just as capable, or more so. But a Stoic approach detaches from this need. You recognize that their behavior stems from their own insecurities, and you focus instead on delivering value to the discussion. By refusing to be drawn into their game, you maintain your dignity and keep the focus on what truly matters. Detachment also helps in situations where intimidation might involve physical presence. Picture yourself in a tense negotiation where the opposing party leans in, their voice low and their stare unyielding. They're using their physicality to create discomfort. A Stoic response would be to acknowledge their tactic, but not to succumb to it. You sit firmly, maintaining your posture and meeting their gaze with steady calmness. In doing so, you communicate that their attempts to dominate are ineffective, reinforcing your own position. Finally, it's important to remember that intimidation often loses its power when met with empathy. While it may seem counterintuitive, responding to aggression with understanding can disarm even the most intimidating individuals. Epictetus taught, "We are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments about them." By reframing the situation, you can shift from seeing the intimidator as an adversary to seeing them as a human being with their own struggles. Imagine a colleague who consistently criticizes your ideas in meetings. Instead of viewing them as an enemy, try to understand their perspective. Are they insecure about their own role? Do they feel unheard or undervalued? By addressing these underlying concerns, perhaps by seeking their input privately or acknowledging their contributions, you can transform the dynamic from one of intimidation to one of collaboration. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotions or avoiding conflict. It's about approaching life's challenges with wisdom and grace. Intimidation, when met with Stoic principles, becomes less of a threat and more of an opportunity, a chance to practice the virtues of courage, resilience, and compassion. And as you build these qualities within yourself, you'll find that the power of intimidation diminishes, replaced by a profound sense of inner strength. Intimidation is not just an external phenomenon, it is deeply tied to our internal state. How we perceive and process the actions of others determines whether we feel fear or stand firm. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot always control external events, we have complete sovereignty over our internal reactions, and it is through this mastery of self that we can transform intimidation into a source of strength. Let's begin with one of the most misunderstood aspects of dealing with intimidation: the power of presence. Often, intimidation thrives in the absence of clarity. The mind fills in gaps with exaggerated fears, imagining scenarios worse than reality. A commanding presence, however, is not about being the loudest or most aggressive person in the room. It's about embodying calm confidence. Take a moment to imagine yourself walking into a high-stakes meeting. You know the stakes are high, and there's a particular individual known for dominating conversations. Your heart pounds, and you can feel the tension in the room as they lock eyes with you, their posture screaming authority. The Stoic approach here is to reclaim your presence. Stand tall, breathe deeply, meet their gaze, not with aggression, but with steady calm. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." By grounding yourself in the present, you shift the dynamic, demonstrating that you will not be easily swayed. This idea of presence connects to the Stoic practice of focusing on your values. When intimidation threatens to shake your resolve, anchoring yourself to your core principles becomes a shield against fear. What do you stand for? What do you value most in this moment? When your actions are aligned with your values, external attempts to intimidate you lose their grip. Consider the example of a whistleblower, someone who stands up against corruption or injustice within an organization. They are often faced with intense intimidation, threats to their career, their reputation, or even their safety. What enables them to persist? It's their unwavering commitment to their values, integrity, justice, and truth. By keeping their focus on what truly matters, they are able to endure external pressures and act with courage. The Stoics remind us that adversity is not a curse, but a teacher. Epictetus wrote, "Difficulties are things that show a person what they are." Each moment of intimidation is an opportunity to practice resilience and strengthen your character. Rather than seeing the intimidator as a barrier, view them as a tool, sharpening your resolve. Now some exciting news. Our channel now offers a live stream, streaming Stoic wisdom and insights around the clock. Plus, by joining our members club, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day" so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Imagine a scenario where you're confronted by a rival colleague who undermines your efforts at every turn. Their comments in meetings are cutting, their tone dismissive. It's tempting to retaliate, to sink to their level. But the Stoic approach is different. You don't react impulsively. Instead, you see their behavior as a challenge to refine your own composure. Each cutting remark is met with professionalism. Each dismissive tone is countered with a steady, reasoned response. Over time, your resilience becomes apparent, not just to the intimidator, but to everyone around you. Stoicism also offers a unique tool in moments of heightened tension: perspective shifting. This practice involves mentally zooming out from the situation to view it in a larger context. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself of the vastness of the universe and the insignificance of most human affairs within it. Consider how swiftly all things pass away and are no more, the works of nature and the works of humanity. When faced with intimidation, ask yourself, how much will this matter in a week, in a year, in 10 years? This simple exercise often reveals that the situation, while uncomfortable, is far less significant than it initially feels. Perspective dilutes the power of fear, allowing you to respond with clarity and composure. For example, think of an entrepreneur pitching their business idea to a room of skeptical investors. The atmosphere is tense, the stakes feel enormous. A dismissive question from one of the investors could easily rattle them, but by shifting perspective, reminding themselves that this pitch is one step in a long journey, they can regain control. The investor's skepticism becomes less intimidating when viewed as a single moment in the grand arc of their efforts. Another Stoic strategy that transforms intimidation into strength is focusing on preparation. Preparation is the antidote to uncertainty, and uncertainty is often the root of fear. When you are well prepared, you naturally exude confidence, making it far harder for intimidation to take hold. Consider a scenario where you're debating a controversial topic with someone known for their sharp rhetoric. Intimidation might creep in as you anticipate their counter-arguments and the intensity of their delivery. The Stoic response is to prepare, not just with facts and arguments, but with mental rehearsal. Visualize the conversation, anticipate their tactics, rehearse your responses calmly. By the time the debate occurs, you are not only ready, but unshaken by their approach. This focus on preparation ties into the Stoic idea of practicing voluntary discomfort. Seneca recommended occasionally depriving oneself of comforts to build resilience. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" How does this help with intimidation? Voluntary discomfort trains your mind to endure stress without crumbling. If you've practiced facing discomfort, be it through challenging conversations, deliberate physical exertion, or moments of solitude, then external intimidation feels far less daunting. You've already proven to yourself that you can endure. Another profound insight from Stoicism is the importance of gratitude. It may seem odd to bring gratitude into a conversation about dealing with intimidation, but consider this. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have. When someone tries to intimidate you, they often aim to make you feel inadequate. Gratitude, however, reminds you of your strengths and resources. Imagine you're a student facing an intimidating professor, someone who critiques your every move and never offers encouragement. It's easy to feel defeated in such a situation, but practicing gratitude changes your perspective. You remind yourself of the opportunity to learn, the effort you've already put in, and the skills you've developed. This mindset not only counters the professor's negativity, but also strengthens your inner resolve. Finally, Stoicism teaches us that true power lies in self-control. Intimidation seeks to disrupt your equilibrium, to provoke an emotional reaction. But when you maintain self-control, you deny the intimidator the satisfaction of their goal. Epictetus put it simply, "No one can harm you unless you consent." Consider a scenario where a competitor at work spreads rumors to damage your reputation. It's natural to feel anger, even outrage, but reacting impulsively, confronting them in anger, or retaliating with similar tactics only fuels the fire. A Stoic response would be to stay calm, to focus on your own integrity, and to let your actions speak louder than their words. By exercising self-control, you not only preserve your dignity, but also demonstrate true strength. Through the lens of Stoicism, intimidation is no longer an insurmountable force. It is a challenge, a moment to practice clarity, resilience, and courage. Each time you encounter it, you have the opportunity to grow stronger, transforming fear into fortitude and adversity into wisdom. As we continue this journey into understanding and overcoming intimidation, it's important to embrace one of the most transformative Stoic principles, amor fati, or the love of fate. This concept challenges us to not just accept the difficulties we encounter, but to embrace them as necessary components of our growth. Intimidation, in this light, becomes an opportunity, a catalyst for the refinement of our character. Imagine being confronted with a powerful adversary, someone whose mere presence fills the room with tension. Perhaps it's an overbearing manager, a rival in your field, or even a personal acquaintance who knows how to press your buttons. The initial reaction might be fear or resentment. But what if, instead, you viewed this person as an essential figure in your story, as someone whose actions, though challenging, are contributing to your journey of self-mastery? This shift in perspective is at the heart of amor fati. Marcus Aurelius captured it beautifully when he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." By embracing intimidation as fuel for your inner fire, you transform its power. Instead of shrinking in its shadow, you use it to illuminate your path forward. One way to apply amor fati in moments of intimidation is by focusing on what is within your control. This foundational Stoic principle, emphasized by Epictetus, reminds us that while we cannot dictate how others behave, we can control our responses. When faced with someone attempting to intimidate you, ask yourself, what is truly in my power here? Your demeanor, your words, your actions, these are yours to command. The intimidator's behavior, that belongs to them. For instance, consider a scenario where a colleague publicly criticizes your work during a meeting. The immediate impulse might be to defend yourself emotionally or counterattack. But the Stoic approach is to pause, breathe, and assess the situation with detachment. Is the criticism valid? If so, accept it gracefully and address it constructively. If not, calmly state your perspective without being drawn into hostility. By focusing on your sphere of control, you maintain your composure and integrity regardless of their intent. Another powerful tool in the Stoic arsenal is mental rehearsal, or premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This practice involves envisioning potential challenges before they occur, preparing your mind to face them with resilience. It's not about pessimism, but about equipping yourself to respond effectively when adversity arises. Let's apply this to a high-pressure scenario, a negotiation with a notoriously intimidating business partner. Before the meeting, take time to visualize their tactics. Picture them interrupting you, raising their voice, or dismissing your proposals. Then, rehearse your responses, remaining calm, asserting your points with clarity, and refusing to be derailed by their aggression. By mentally rehearsing these scenarios, you enter the meeting with a sense of preparedness that weakens their ability to rattle you. Stoicism also encourages us to draw strength from the concept of common humanity. Often, intimidation stems from perceiving the other person as larger than life, as a figure of overwhelming power or authority. But at their core, they are human, subject to the same fears, desires, and vulnerabilities as anyone else. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of this truth. Think of the many who once felt intense anger about things, the most famous, the most unfortunate, the most hated, the most whatever. Where are they now? Smoke and ash and a tale, or not even a tale. This reflection can be profoundly grounding. The person intimidating you, no matter how formidable they seem, is mortal. Their actions are driven by the same insecurities and impulses that govern all human behavior. Picture yourself facing a particularly domineering figure, a senior executive, a commanding officer, or a celebrity client. Their demeanor might be intimidating, but beneath their polished exterior lies the same human fragility. Recognizing this doesn't diminish their authority. Rather, it neutralizes the psychological pedestal you might have placed them on. It reminds you that you are equal in dignity, and that their attempts to intimidate you reflect their own struggles, not your worth. As you navigate these dynamics, it's essential to cultivate emotional detachment, a cornerstone of Stoic practice. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means observing your emotions without being ruled by them. When someone tries to intimidate you, their goal is often to provoke an emotional reaction. By remaining detached, you deny them that power. Imagine a scenario where a client raises their voice during a heated discussion, aiming to assert dominance. Instead of matching their tone, you respond with measured calm. You acknowledge their concerns without internalizing their anger. This detachment not only diffuses the tension, but also positions you as the composed, rational party in the interaction. Over time, this consistent display of self-control earns you respect and credibility. Another profound Stoic strategy for dealing with intimidation is the practice of gratitude for adversity. Seneca, in his letters, spoke of the value of hardship as a teacher. "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body," he wrote. "When faced with intimidation, cultivate gratitude for the opportunity to test and strengthen your resolve." Consider an athlete training for a competition. They don't view the weight of the barbell as an obstacle. They see it as a tool for building strength. Similarly, when someone tries to intimidate you, see their actions as resistance training for your mind. Each encounter sharpens your ability to remain steady under pressure, to think clearly in the face of provocation, and to act with integrity. In moments of intimidation, remember too the importance of connecting to your purpose. Why are you in this situation? What greater goal are you pursuing? Anchoring yourself to your purpose provides clarity and courage, reminding you that the intimidator's actions are a mere distraction from your path. Picture a community leader advocating for a cause they deeply believe in. They face opposition from powerful entities, each attempt to intimidate them designed to silence their voice. But their purpose, to fight for justice, equality, or the environment, grounds them. The intimidator's threats may shake them momentarily, but their commitment to their cause ultimately fortifies them. Finally, the Stoic response to intimidation often involves compassion for the intimidator. This might seem counterintuitive, but consider this. Those who resort to intimidation often do so out of their own fear, insecurity, or unresolved pain. Recognizing this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you approach the situation with greater wisdom and less animosity. Imagine a manager who belittles their team during meetings. Instead of viewing them solely as a tyrant, consider what might be driving their actions. Are they under pressure from higher-ups? Do they fear losing control? This perspective doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment, but it allows you to address the situation without being consumed by anger. Perhaps you set boundaries with firm yet empathetic communication, demonstrating that intimidation is neither effective nor necessary. As we conclude this exploration, remember that the Stoic approach to intimidation is not about overpowering others. It's about mastering yourself. It's about recognizing that your worth is not determined by external forces, but by your inner strength and character. Each encounter with intimidation is an opportunity to practice courage, composure, and compassion. In the end, Stoicism offers not just a way to withstand intimidation, but to transcend it, to emerge from these encounters not as a victim of fear, but as a person of unwavering dignity and strength. And in doing so, you not only transform your own experience, but also inspire others to rise above intimidation with the same grace and resilience. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the energy shift? Maybe someone greeted you warmly, but their smile didn't quite reach their eyes. Or you noticed a subtle tension that wasn't spoken aloud. Reading people isn't just a skill, it's an art, a combination of science, psychology, and philosophy. It's the ability to see beneath the surface, to grasp emotions, intentions, and truths that are often hidden in plain sight. This art has been the cornerstone of great leaders, negotiators, and thinkers throughout history. But it's not magic. It's a skill that anyone can cultivate with practice. In this video, we'll embark on a journey to uncover 8 powerful techniques for reading people without them ever realizing it. These techniques, grounded in both modern science and ancient philosophies like Stoicism, Taoism, and Confucianism, will help you navigate relationships, professional interactions, and everyday encounters with greater insight. To understand the value of reading people, let's consider its practical applications. Imagine being able to detect dishonesty during a negotiation, sense discomfort in a colleague before they voice it, or anticipate someone's needs in a relationship without them having to ask. These skills aren't about manipulation, but about connection and understanding. By reading people effectively, you can adapt your approach, build trust, and make informed decisions. The Stoics believed in the power of perception, particularly when it came to understanding others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't be overheard complaining. Instead, think about how much more of a man you are to handle your own emotions and understand theirs." The ability to read people is deeply tied to mastering your own reactions and remaining calm and composed in the face of ambiguity. Now, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. Only 15% of my audience is currently subscribed, so if these insights resonate with you, I'd love for you to join our community and turn on the notification bell to stay updated. The first step to reading people is observation, and this isn't as simple as just watching. Observation is about noticing the subtle details that others overlook, the flicker of an eyebrow, the slight shift in posture, the hesitation in someone's tone. These micro details often tell a more honest story than the words someone speaks. Modern psychology has shown us that communication is predominantly non-verbal. Research by Dr. Albert Mehrabian revealed that 93% of communication comes from non-verbal cues like tone, body language, and facial expressions, while only 7% comes from words. This means that by honing your observational skills, you're tapping into the majority of the information someone is presenting. The first historical figure to master this was Abraham Lincoln. Known for his quiet demeanor, Lincoln often allowed others to speak at length while he observed. By simply remaining silent and watching, he gained critical insights into their character, motivations, and fears. Silence, as we'll explore later, is one of the most powerful tools in the art of reading people. Technique 1. The power of silence. One of the simplest yet most profound techniques is the deliberate use of silence. In conversation, people are often uncomfortable with pauses. When you stop speaking, they feel compelled to fill the void. This can lead them to reveal their true thoughts, emotions, or intentions without even realizing it. Let's say you're in a meeting and a colleague seems hesitant about a project. Instead of probing directly, you pause after their comments, creating a moment of silence. Chances are they'll feel the need to explain further, offering insights they hadn't intended to share. This technique doesn't just give you information, it also conveys authority and composure. The philosophical roots of this technique can be traced to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the power of restraint, noting that speaking less often leads to better understanding. Silence is not just the absence of words, it's a space for reflection, observation, and insight. In my own life, I've used this technique countless times. During a job interview, for instance, I paused after the interviewer asked me a question. That moment of silence prompted them to clarify their expectations, giving me a clearer idea of how to tailor my response. By mastering silence, you gain the upper hand in any interaction, not by dominating the conversation, but by controlling its rhythm. Technique 2. Watch their feet. While many focus on facial expressions or gestures, the position of someone's feet often reveals their true intentions. Feet are less consciously controlled than hands or faces, making them an honest indicator of focus and desire.